Welcome back. Now, more details of how the murder and multiple rape convict Thabo Bester managed to escape from the Mangaung Correctional Centre last year will continue to unravel. Yesterday, the media publication Ground Up reported that Bester's partner and alleged accomplice, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, used Bester's alias, Nkwana, to book accommodation in Bloemfontein and in Ballito in the weeks leading up to the escape, with more than 120,000 rand being spent on these bookings. Now, Dr. Magudumana will today reappear at the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court on charges relating to aiding and harbouring Bester, defeating the ends of justice and violating a corpse. She will be joined by 3 co-accused, including her father, Zolile Cornelius Sekeleni, former G4S prison warder Senohe Matsoara, and Tebogo James Lipholo, who was also employed to install the prison surveillance cameras, all appearing today. So to discuss what we could possibly expect from today's court proceedings and also what this court case means for the country's criminal justice system, we are joined virtually by Tyrone Maseko, founder and attorney at T Maseko Attorneys. Tyrone, good to have you with us here on Morning Live. Welcome.
Good morning.
So first off, let me just get your thoughts on how this entire case has been handled, starting with the SAPS.
Well, it's quite interesting. I guess one has to think about which stage. I mean, we know now that this is a saga that really came about even before we knew about it as the public. There were investigations after a fire started in Bloemfontein. These facts had not come to public. So what's interesting is, was there a case open with the police? Was there an investigation that was ongoing in the last 10 months or so? If there was an investigation, how much has that investigation uncovered? So how much do police know about the exact details of what happened in the Bloemfontein Correctional Centre? Because if that investigation is advanced, then it means that at this stage, now that these parties have been apprehended and are in police custody, the police would actually have a docket that should be about 60–70% complete. And they would only have to investigate those facts that emerged after they tried to escape the country. And there would be a limited investigation. So it's not quite clear at this stage how much the police knew of exactly what has happened here, and that we'll uncover and we'll know in the coming days and months, I suppose.
So as these details emerge, Tyrone, and as I said in the introduction, it places a spotlight on the entire criminal justice system, including the NPA as well. So just looking at how things have progressed from the information that we have learned over the past few weeks, starting from the Ground Up investigation and their report. And then, of course, we saw the parliamentary process as well, where G4S, the police, correctional services and justice department all had to appear before Parliament. The details are quite shocking, but it still makes you wonder whether this criminal case has already been bungled before it's even started.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So one has got to split different processes here. The first one, at least in my mind, is first one's got to look at, keep this in mind, Sakina, is that Thabo Bester is a convicted person and was already serving a sentence. So those processes were completed, been tried, convicted, done. The question now is, well, we know now that he did escape from prison. And there starts a new investigation of, well, how did that come about? Because escaping from lawful custody is in itself an offense in our law. So that investigation could only have started at that point. And at that stage, the National Prosecuting Authority has got nothing to do with the case. The National Prosecuting Authority only starts getting involved once a police docket that has been investigated is presented to it in court. The National Prosecuting Authority does not have personnel at the police stations. Only when a docket is brought to court do they then review a docket to see what offense potentially has been committed and what charges they can prefer against a person. Now, as I see it, for them, these are new dockets. So the police duty and obligation is to ensure that there is as much evidence in that docket in order for the National Prosecuting Authority to make a determination as to what charges to prefer against these parties. And I imagine there'll be a raft of charges against them, given that they were found in Tanzania, so of course borders, immigration provisions would have been infringed. So there's a whole raft, and all of that has to be investigated. Unfortunately for them, the police have to investigate this under a lot of pressure and in the spotlight. But well, it is what it is. And so I wouldn't at this stage place any blame or cast aspersions on the NPA. Let's see how they handle it going forward.
And that's perhaps fair to the NPA. But as far as bodies that were stolen and, bodies found in rivers, those sort of things, the fact that this escape happened last year, May already, and it seems as though the authorities are only starting to really wake up to do thorough investigations at this stage. What should we make of that? G4S...
Well, that's the thing. It's important not to lump the South African Police Service with the National Prosecuting Authority. Their roles are very different. While they're interrelated and they depend on one another, their roles are very, very different, and one cannot lump them together. And I don't know when the matter was first reported to the police service, because at that stage, that's when the investigation would have started or should have started in earnest. So that could have, and it relates to, on the subject. And one's got to be careful when you're working with facts that are in the public domain, because they're not attested and all that gets said, and they don't have, and they change over time. So police, when they investigate, they have to investigate facts, and sometimes it's a laborious, often it's a laborious process that takes time to uncover the facts, not rumors and things that go around. They cannot really do much about that. What's interesting for me and what I'm interested in is to know when they knew for the first time. So was it the last 10 months, in the last 6 months? Because some of the offenses we know date back prior. I mean, the escape is something that happened last year, so they would have been, ought to have been reported immediately after it was uncovered that they actually had escaped. At that point, should have been reported to the police, so they would have been investigating that offense. The discovery of the bodies, well, when were these bodies discovered? Because if no one knows that there were bodies buried somewhere, no one's reporting a case, there's no police investigation that will take place. So it's important that they start investigating as soon as a matter is reported to them. If there's a delay, well, in that regard, fair enough. But if they've only found out last week, 3 months ago, that potentially the other people who've been murdered, then the police investigation could have only started 2-3 weeks ago.
And that's the point, Tyrone. According to the ground-up investigation, at the point where it was found, when Thabo Bester's mother, for example, tried to claim his body, it was already established at that point via DNA testing that that was not Thabo Bester. So you would imagine at that point, an investigation would start in all earnest to determine who is that and where is Thabo Bester. And
Correct.
Seemingly it all dies down until ground up, goes and digs a little further and brings this investigation to the fore. We saw in Parliament as well, there was a lot of almost an effort to try and pass the buck, G4S trying to stall on their part, saying that this was not there. They had to wait for the police to tell them before they could do this, that or the other. So it's quite interesting how everybody is now starting to scramble when this man escaped last year, May already. But just looking at how things have played out and what we can expect today in court, Tyrone, Nandipha Magudumana and the other 3 accused, they appeared last week, but they all fall back this morning. What can we expect to unfold?
Right. So now that these suspects are all together in the cases, like the offenses, they've committed relatively different offenses, so they'll face different charges. However, all these offenses are related, so they relate to essentially the same event. For example, Dr. Nandipha may be charged with accessory before the fact and after the fact, and the other criminal guy might be charged with an accessory before the fact, may not be involved after the escape has happened, but they all relate to the escape. And today's proceedings, as I understand it, is they're still in custody. And we're not going to see a trial anytime soon, not in the coming weeks. I expect not in the coming months, may very well be the earliest next year, given the investigation that still have to take place and the legal process, the systematic delays that we generally see in these matters. So the question now is, well, while investigations, the police investigations take place, what should we do with them? Should they be out on bail, or should they be remanded in custody? And so every accused has a right to apply for a bail, which is not to say that you are going to be granted bail, but you've got a right to apply for bail. And they got to make that decision with their legal representatives as to whether they want to apply for bail at this stage. I do not like their prospects on these applications, particularly Dr. Nandipha, because they've had to be, well, she and the convict have had to be brought from Tanzania, meaning that, of course, many bodies. So they're flight risk. Their prospects are very dim to be, for this on bail.
Okay.
The other two accused will depend. They're going to go through a whole rigmarole of
Tyrone,
convincing people.
I apologize, but unfortunately we are out of time. We have to leave it there, but no doubt we'll speak to you throughout the day, helping us unpack these proceedings. Tyrone Maseko is attorney at T Maseko Attorneys, and just talking about this case and also, what's likely to unfold at the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court today when Thabo Bester's partner and co-accused Nandipha Magudumana and 3 others appear today. So that's where we're going to leave it.
Indeed. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.